Hey, what's up, guys? We're at Herman's Coffee in South Philadelphia off Moyamensing and Wharton. We're going to be hanging out with Chef Pat Alfiero today of Heavy Metal Sausage. He's doing a pop-up in the cart. Herman's been hosting a bunch of chefs and pop-ups and food trucks throughout the pandemic, people that don't really have a space, people that are getting started. So we're going to sit down with Pat for an interview later, see what he's selling, eat some of his food. Stick around, we got a good show for you.
Yeah.
Herman's is a small batch coffee roaster in South Philadelphia and one of Food & Wine's top 100 coffee shops in America. In August of 2020, they set up a food truck in their location and have been hosting local chefs and startups for brunch and dinner pop-ups. They have a great menu with coffee cocktails and frozen drinks, and in 2020 they transitioned from indoor seating to become a kind of local specialty food shop with a great selection of chocolate, tinned fish, bitters, cheese and charcuterie, and hot sauce.
So Heavy Metal is a company I started during the pandemic, like the second week of the pandemic. Originally, it was just making hot dogs at ITV, where I was the chef.
Hot dog. Hot dog.
And I was making hot dogs, like all beef from Lancaster. And I ended up selling like 300 hot dogs that first week. And then I
think I bought some of those hot dogs.
Yeah, and I was building like a charcuterie program, so I was just like so in that rabbit hole that I was like, oh, I'll make hot dogs. Like, people liked them. So first off, we have the all pork frankfurter. It's a smoked pork hot dog with my pepper relish. That's actually my grandmother's recipe. And then mustard that I make in-house. It's in a panelé bun made by Machine Shop Boulangerie in Philadelphia. And then some potato chips, hand-cut, thick Johns.
This is the Frankfurter on a Machine Shop panelé with Pat's grandmother's relish.
Pat in here?
That's great. I mean, just a handmade hot dog is like on another level. It's just so much better. It's fresh. This hasn't been sitting in a grocery store for months. He makes these weekly. This relish is great. It's sweet, tangy. It was a perfect hot dog. No ketchup. As Obama said, at a certain age, it's just not okay to put ketchup on a hot dog. And this hot dog bun is amazing. From Machine Shop, another Philly-owned bakery.
I had the idea, I had the name. I always thought it would be a cool name for a business. Mm-hmm. And the idea had always stayed the same. It was always like a specialty meat shop where like charcuterie, salumi, dry aging, and like Eastern European like smoked sausage was always like the main portion of it, and then like off the side was like some fresh sausage.
Yeah,
like just having a restaurant was always that, like, how can I incorporate like French charcuterie into Italian food, because like I try as hard as I can be, and I think that I am for the most part a purist when it comes to like a lot of the things. Like, I don't like mixing French and Italian unless if like they are being mixed already.
Yeah, definitely.
So like I didn't know how I was going to serve like a pâté en croûte as like a first course in a Sicilian restaurant. Mm-hmm. It just didn't make sense to me. But then like we started this like every other week weird schedule of like, oh, I'm going to make sausage, and like, I'll make sausage this week and take a week off, and then the next week I'll make some more sausage and like see what happens. And like, because we started the way that we have been with like setting up at a table and like selling online, we can easily jump back into that once we move to the next step.
And then next up we have kielbasa. So this is like a my rendition on like an OG kielbasa. So instead of black pepper, we're using horseradish to add the like little bit of spice and kick to it. And then it has a little bit of preserved marjoram from Green Meadow and some preserved garlic as well. All pork, coarse ground, smoked in the smokehouse for like 4 hours, and then just seared on the plancha with some heirloom cabbage and heirloom purple potatoes from Green Meadow Farms as well. Finished off with some preserved horseradish that's just simply preserved in some aged white wine vinegar from Green Meadow Farms.
This is a pork kielbasa with purple potatoes, charred cabbage, and horseradish. Oh, it's really good. The cabbage is kind of sweet. The horseradish is fresh. Pat was saying these are like Peruvian purple potatoes
These are like Peruvian.
that he grilled on the plancha. That's just comfort food. And charred cabbage is delicious. Who's that? What's up? Can we cut?
So you just started using mutton, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Once a month, I'll be doing like mutton or goat, one of the two, because they scare people, and I like that.
And what technically is mutton for everyone that might not know?
A 2+ year old sheep.
Okay.
So a lamb is like is like 14 or a year or 14 months, like that's the cutoff. And the hobbit or whatever the fuck it's called from Australia.
Hog it.
Yeah. So lamb, hoggit's like in the middle between like that year and 2 year mark, and then I want to say lamb can be a year and a half old.
So I looked up like the USDA definition.
Yeah.
And it just like varies country to country. New Zealand does something weird because they're all about lamb. But it has to do with, it's definitely over under a year. It has to do with how many worn incisor teeth
Okay.
they have.
Yeah.
Which I thought was hilarious.
That's weird. Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah.
Year or under, and I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Lastly, mutton meatballs. I got mutton from Stryker Farms in Salisbury, PA. So it's just a little bit stronger flavored as the animal gets older, a little less tender, but in my opinion, more delicious because it has a little bit more of the flavors of like traditional lamb, just kind of intensified.
The flavor of it, though, I think is much better than lamb.
That's great. It's really not. When people hear mutton, they think like old gamey meat, but this basically just tastes like more flavorful lamb.
So it's that all mutton with some coriander and dried Calabrian chilies from Green Meadow Farms as well. We use a lot of Green Meadow Farms. And then underneath it is Castle Valley Mills spelt and rye grains and greens. So it's just stewed greens with some brassicas, big old overgrown cabbage leaves, some dinosaur kale, some broccoli and cauliflower leaves are thrown in there. And then it's finished off with some pepperonata, which I make over the summer, usually in like August when peppers are first starting to come to season. It's sweet peppers, a few hot peppers mixed in there, tomato, and then sweet and sour, like an agrodolce is added to it. That's it.
It's really good. It's not gamey at all.
The mutton, it's not that strong.
No, it's not.
Like,
It's great.
The best lamb in the world is stronger than that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, good fucking lamb is like much oilier than that.
I think it's almost the same thing as Scrapple too. It's just the name that people associate. Like mutton sounds like it's like
well,
made fun of sometimes.
Because
most people haven't even like ever had it.
You know, a 2-year-old mutton compared to a 1-year-old lamb. I mean, it's a year difference. It's not like there's like, it's not like the complexity is gonna like completely change and like your face is gonna get destroyed by like oiliness.
Yeah.
You know, like
They just grow a few more teeth.
Yeah. So, and it all depends on the feed. Like, that plays such a huge role. And, like, don't get me wrong, like, I like pastured pork. I like pastured animal in general. But, like, when you grain animals, like, to finish them, or, like, grain and corn mixes and stuff like that, they get an exponentially better fat content.
Mm-hmm. I was all about grass-fed beef until I worked at a steakhouse, and then it's still delicious, but it's entirely different. Corn-fed
fat.
is amazing. The fat is delicious, and you're never going to get that much fat.
Yeah.
With just grass. It's like Wagyu is corn-fed, right?
Wagyu is grain, but they don't let it move.
No.
In Japan, like the Japanese practices of like to make like the like Mizigawa Waki or whatever it's called, like the highest grade and like all of that Wagyu, like A5 and shit like that, like they don't allow them to move, so they don't really ever like build muscle mass. It just is fat. And I like I like the mix. The best like meat I ever had was like a Black Angus and Wagyu mix.
Yeah.
They just grow really slow and they get really fatty. It's like Mangolista, I guess, because they like the Mangolistas walk around and shit, but they get fucking giant. Yeah.
They're delicious.
They are.
I think it's one of my favorite pigs for curing. I don't think I've ever had like
I've had like chops from them. They're really good. Mangolista was a common breed in Eastern Europe. It's like the Hungarians and stuff, like that's the hog they used for a lot of their sausages and like smoked stuff. So like that's why the fat content in like Polish and Hungarian smoked sausages it's so high. They're so fatty because like they have Mangolistas. And then like you have the Iberico from Spain that's like another super fatty but like has to be fed acorns to have it be special. Mangolistas are pretty. Have you seen the pictures of them? Yeah. They're all fuzzy and fat.
Have you seen them in person? I've never
no.
Seen.
I've been meaning. I need to get out to Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Because like apparently, like I mean, the farm's like has like a cafe on it and.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Yeah, they like serve Mangolista meat at their like cafe from the farm.
They're in Elizabethtown. You said you're looking for locations currently?
Yeah. So one of our patrons actually like is a real estate agent, and he reached out and asked if we would like him to look for places. And
that's great. And you're looking primarily in South Philly.
Yeah, like Italian market area would be ideal.
That's definitely like
especially with Fiorella's gone.
Food zone right
now. I mean, I think that area gets so much foot traffic as well with tourists that like
it's definitely. I feel like it's getting more now, especially because there's not really hasn't been anywhere to go, but you can buy stuff at the Italian market, walk around. There's a bunch of shops. The Italian market is like 2 to 3 blocks above Washington, but it also was basically Little Mexico for like 3 blocks beneath it with barbacoa, prima taqueria.
Yeah. Once the shop's open, like we're going to be open in the morning at the shop until like 5-6 o'clock, and then at night I was like, well, why don't we just open it as a restaurant at night? If we do 30 people in a night, you know, like it's just extra.
Yeah, I think that's the model that is kind of not taking over, but just really a good idea, especially for startups. Because if you're paying for a space and you're only using it 5 or 6 hours of the day, when you could be, you know, like what was the fish place in
Rezipsa?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like,
it's like a cafe in the morning, coffee shop, and then
majority of what I've like thought about. If I can be in the same spot or like next door to the same spot, like perfect.
You source pretty much everything
As much as possible, yeah. And like the goal is to be 100% local. And like by local, like, you know, as much from Pennsylvania as possible, but like Delaware, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Virginia, Georgia, Carolina is like East Coast for the most part, you know, like, because if I want to get pecans, like there's no pecans in the Northeast, like I got to go to Georgia, but like it's on the East Coast. It's not being flown across the country. It's like I've driven through Georgia before, like on road trips, you know, like, but yeah, so that's heavy metal. Heavy metal is a vast thing, but the basis of it is just everything's local, all local producers, all local farmers. I mean, to the point of like where now I'm like trying to, all my knives are going to be local. Pellegrino's going to make a bunch of stuff for me.
Yeah, what are some of the purveyors, just local farms you work with?
So right now we're working with Stryker on a weekly basis, Green Meadow Farm on a weekly basis, Lancaster Farm Fresh, Smith Poultry, Bison Farm, Kaiser's Pheasantry, starting to work with Hoe Creek Farm.
What's the Pellegrino cutlery?
Pellegrino's, he's blacksmith.
Okay.
He's an awesome blacksmith. And
Out of Delaware?
No, I forget. I think it's like Chester or something like that. Okay. But he's great. He makes awesome knives, and
yeah, the knives look great. I want to get one now.
He's actually going to be. He's the first person that like we've gotten to like sign on to having like a little display in the shop.
Having his knives in your shop.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like having him there, but also like anybody else who like I want to talk to like Valem Soap Company and ask her if she'll make soap for us with like fat, and then also like sell some of her stuff there. Have like some of the like East Coast salt companies. All of it just filters into this like one.
Yeah, it is all one thing.
Yeah, and it's like trying to build a community out of like a meat shop. It's not a butcher shop. It's not a charcuterie, it's not a salumeria, it's not, you know, like, it's all of it, and it's really weird. It's really weird to get talking about it, because then you're like, oh shit, like, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, sounds like it. It definitely sounds sustainable and, like, awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, it's heavy metal.
I think most people know what Scrapple is by now.
I don't know if they do.
Just...
I think people are,
let's
quite inept in the Scrapple world. It's one of those.
Scrapple's mainly like a Central PA thing.
Yeah,
Central PA.
Which comes from the Dutch and the Polish and the Amish. I love Scrapple, and I started making Scrapple.
I also love Scrapple.
Yeah, it's fucking great. You get a block of Scrapple, and you're like, "The fuck is this gray meat?" And then you eat it, you're like, "Oh, that's good. There's a lot of salt in that."
Yeah.
You go to Lancaster and get Scrapple, or you come to me and get Scrapple, like it's meat, cornmeal, salt, vegetables, whatever.
It's fresh.
Yeah. It's just like, it's what's left over. Instead of it being like literal scrap from like butchering a pig, I use pig heads. Lots of times, like, people don't want the heads because they don't know what to do with them. Yeah, so, like,
they're made. It's like one of the best parts.
Like, one of the things I got. Yeah, the process for making Scrapple is you take everything that's left over, and you boil it with like onions and carrots and stock and stuff like that, and then you remove everything from the liquid, you grind all of it, put it back in the liquid, and then add a percentage of cornmeal or buckwheat or a mix of the two, and then you like cook that until it's like firm, and then you set it in a pan and then cut it out, and that's Scrapple. my workaround for it was, instead of grinding it and making it impossible to know what's in it, it's just like braised meat set in cornmeal. So it's more of like a terrine. And it's like really fatty. There's skin in it. There's ears in it. There's tongue in it. There's meat in it. There's cheeks in it. Whatever. It's just everything. Boiled, picked apart, chopped up, put back into cornmeal. It's local cornmeal. It's good cornmeal. And then it's like eating a plenta cake with meat in it.
Yeah.
So now it's like it's like you can tell what each thing is, and like it's not scary. Because you're like, oh, there's pork right there. I know what that is. And you're like, oh, it's cornmeal. It's yellow. And then you eat it. And then people, and you see it and you're like, oh, that's really pretty. And then you're like, oh, it's Scrapple. So like that was my idea around that. Which like if I become known for Scrapple, like I'm totally cool with that. Like, if I get known for like Scrapple and pork jowl pie, like I'd be fucking so happy.
I think you're going down that road right now. But.
Which is great.
You just want to like say where you can get your stuff, where you can order, where your pop-ups are.
Oh, sure.
Quick plug.
Sure. So you can go heavymetalsausage.com to pre-order for pickups on Saturday at Herman's Coffee Shop on William Mensing in South Philly. Every other week at River Wards. But yeah, go to the website, pre-order. Menu goes up every Monday on Instagram. At Heavy Metal Sausage 215. And yeah, that's it. No Facebook, no Twitter.
All right. Cool. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, man. Thanks. It's fun. Thanks for the tea. Tea time.
And that's the show, guys.
You're not Spielberg. Fucking dickhead.